right, so assalamu alaikum, everybody. Today I'm speaking with Dr. William Berilo, who is a Polish, French, British Muslim revert. And we're going to talk about his experience of coming into Islam and many different things. So thank you so much, William, for being here today.
No, thanks to you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I forgot William has a YouTube channel, so go check it out. I watched one of his documentaries about Polish Muslims, which was how I discovered his work. And I actually had myself an idea to travel to Poland to these villages in the east to see the Tatars, but it's just far away, even though we're just very close neighbors. Anyways, so maybe my first question would be when did you become a Muslim? How long was it?
So I embraced Islam in 2008, which is now something like 15 years ago.
So what were you before embracing Islam? What was your belief system or yeah.
So my parents come from Poland. They moved to France in the 80s. And so there's a strong Catholic tradition in Poland, which meant that I was sent to a Catholic school. And I was already very familiar with the ideas of God and with the prayer, the rituals, and so on. So for me, it was nothing really, really new, I would say. So I've read the Bible from cover to cover. My mom used to read me the stories of the prophets in the Bible. And so I think, when I like to present it to my family is I just did a software update basically because, all the message was already there, but because we know all these texts, many have been distorted. So Islam came to just, refresh and update everything. So this is how I like to present it.
Mm-hmm. Have you actually believed in Christianity, or was it like a cultural Christianity that
Yeah, so for my parents, it was very cultural, meaning that we were doing all the rituals. We would go to church, but they never explained, the why and the how. And I'm a very rational person, and I like to understand what I'm doing. And so I never understood, the concepts like Trinity or, why Jesus should be the flesh of God. And the church was really boring, to be honest, because it was 1 hour literally, standing, hearing people singing. And the only interesting part was the 5 minutes when the priest would comment about the scriptures. 5 minutes, that's it. The rest, it was I really didn't like it. It didn't make sense.
Did you go in France to church or in Poland or in the UK or?
No, so I spent 26 years of my life in France. So, and in my childhood, so we would go to our local church in French. Sometimes we would go to the Polish church. There is one Polish church in the middle of Paris, so yeah, that was pretty it. We did with what we had at hand.
Got it. So how old were you when you were started looking at Islam or different things?
So it started when I was at uni, and I was how old I was. I think I was around 20 or 21. I didn't look, first at Islam because I didn't have much information, to be honest. At the time, they may, speak 5 minutes about it at school at one point, and the rest was mainly coming from what you see in the media. Um,
Mhm.
which was not great. However, I think I reconnected first with my faith because I wasn't practicing either as a Catholic. I was believing in God, and I like to talk to God as I would like talk to a friend. I had a hard day, and I would just say to God, oh look, I had a very hard day. I don't know what to do and stuff. But faith came back very unexpectedly when I lost a phone in the middle of the fields. It's a whole story. I talk about it on my channel. But so I lost my phone, and it was a time where I didn't have internet, and so it was a big deal because I was still under the supervision of my parents. And if they try to call me, I don't reply. yeah, it's not gonna be great at home. So, and I tried every rational and logical way to find back this phone. And it just, I didn't succeed for 2 hours. And the only time it worked is when I sat down and as a last resort, I prayed to God, please, help me with that. Give me just a hand with this phone. And unexpectedly, in a place where there was no one for 30 days, there was a random guy driving a scooter who drives past me, and because of the weight of the scooter and the spinning of the wheels, the phone just bumped out of the grass. And you know and I did chemistry. I have how do you say in English, a degree in chemistry, and I'm someone who thinks really logically. And for me, it was just too much to be just an accident, too much to be a coincidence, and too much to be just random. It was, for me, it was a pure miracle. And this is when things start, in my heart, something opened, and I understood that, if you ask something to God, He will reply. He's here. And I think this is how I first reconnected with faith. Islam came much later. It took me some hardships in life to understand that it was the way. But the way, because it's a very long story, to make it very short, is the same. I was looking for signs, for guidance in my life, because I didn't know what to do. My parents forced me to do chemistry because they wanted me to become an engineer, but I didn't like it. I didn't find a purpose in that, and I was still hesitating, if I should continue that for the sake of my parents, or earning money, or something more connected with like justice on earth. And it was one of these moments where I asked God for guidance, as I would, ask informally, please, like, help me with this. And there was a series of signs that, again, it was too much to be a coincidence, and I interpreted them as like just, putting me towards the direction of Islam. And yet, so I was first of all convinced in my heart that, yeah, Islam should be the way. But then the other really the part of the story is, about how you learning about Islam, the why and the how, the prayer, the rituals, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how people look for ways to justify some like experiences that they have to like logically come to conclusion, and the odds are so small that the whatever situation happened perfectly, the alignment, but they'll still just say like, oh, this is just a random thing, when like what's the probability of that? Like we can just use logic. Like you wouldn't bet your life on like lottery tickets, but you're guessing like this experience was like random, and yeah, everything can be random in a way if you want to randomize everything. But it's just such a weird thing where we have this problem of accepting like uh, there's something higher, because I was atheist, so I never believed in God, to be honest. In terms of like, I was Catholic, Slovaks are Catholic, like Polish, the same, but I never believed in it. Only as a kid, but I lost my iman, let's say. So it was more about just looking at the probabilities, also on the bigger scale, like the universe, and just everything around us. Like how likely is it that this is random, and what is random? Like, does it exist? Random is just a name for things, like processes which we don't understand, but nothing is in reality random. Usually there's something in the background. So it's like nature. What is that nature? Like we put these labels for things we don't want to think about. So that's good. Yeah. And in terms of my next question would be perhaps coming from your background, which is very different, and many reverts have this issue of like, they have some cultural background. Plus, you were also in sort of, you grew up in France, but also born to Polish parents, so there was maybe some also like you had some different identity already, and now a third identity, a Muslim. You're adding to this. So how did you feel about this? Because just for me, I'm only 3 years Muslim, alhamdulillah, but it's like a challenge, for people to understand, like how can a white Eastern European guy be Muslim, with no background, nothing. So it's like And I've traveled and I've seen other countries, but it's still a unique experience that you have usually, because it's like even in big mosques around the world, there's not many, like only in Bosnia I've met like a lot of like Europeans, but otherwise I'm usually alone, like everywhere. Uh, so how was your kind of experience of embracing Islam and then kind of implementing in the community somewhere, like in France or somewhere else, you know?
Yeah. So, one thing which is, I think, a bit sad is I slowly realized that there is no such thing as a community. Um, the thing is, maybe in France, I had a wonderful experience being a Muslim because Muslims in France back in 2010, it was were very much like together. It was regardless of the culture, the I would say the madhab, the school of thought. People were really in it together because Islamophobia was like full force. Um, and especially when you go in groups who are doing grassroots work like feeding the homeless and stuff. It was a place in France where you can just go to a mosque, hang out after the prayer and make friends. Go to the kebab shop, you make friends. If you had a problem, you didn't have any money, you can ask the uncle running the kebab shop around the corner, please uncle, like I need money, can you do something for me? And he will give you a job. um, just based on your faith. So it was a time which I believe, it's been 10 years I left France. I'm not sure it exists anymore. Times have changed. Um, but in France, I really felt like having a family outside of my blood family, which was like incredible, this to say. But when I moved to the UK 10 years ago, it was the complete opposite. So in the UK, you have lots of mosques, no problems to find halal meat, no problem to attend religious lectures, knowledge is like around every corner. But I felt really isolated, alone. It's empty of people. You have all these like mosques and things and halal meat, but where are the Muslims? I got rejected many times for jobs in the Muslim charity sector or for marriage because of my Polish origins, and never happened in France. I was this kind of like weird person where people couldn't put any boxes. And even my own father-in-law made a comment before I got married that or he must be like these dirty immigrants who come and build like a shoddy driveway and run away with the money, because it was one of these stereotypes that led people to vote Brexit. This very like hatred sentiment against Eastern Europeans. They come and take our jobs and stuff. And sadly, it has permeated in a lot of Muslim communities, even people from like our generations. It's very, very sad, but I only found maybe one or two pockets of people with whom they will accept whoever comes without any judgment. And it's just like the contrast is incredible. You have so much infrastructures for Muslims, so much like freedom, but there is no solidarity. And that was maybe one of the most difficult experiences I had as a Muslim.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that like by color we're closer to Brits, like Polish or Slovak, than like Pakistani. Like why? And but the Pakistanis are being racist. Like that's strange for me to understand. Like how is this possible? You know, because I understand, I know this Polish sentiment, working in the warehouse and stuff. But it's funny when it comes from not British people, but the actual Brits who have been there for a couple of generations, but are immigrants. They came there as immigrants, and they are not. I don't know. It's strange. It's strange. So
Yeah, I mean, my research is actually very part of understanding why it's happening, because I'm not alone in this. I met some other people who are not Polish but also coming from European background, and they have who are born in Britain but they're black, and they have very similar experiences. And I think this is and I've been trying to understand why. And I think here in the UK, people are wanting so much to assimilate to the British culture then it comes at the cost of their like morals, ethics, the religion. Sometimes, if you see what's on Instagram and YouTube coming from Britain, it's not very like deep and I would say, to say the least. In France, you know from scratch that if you're Muslim, you're never going to be part of the society. You know from scratch that you're going to have a hard time finding jobs, and I think this is why maybe people stick together in France. And in Britain, you have this illusion that, yeah, you know, like if you become rich, famous, or powerful, then you can solve like racism and stuff, and people believe in that, and so it's everyone for themselves. And I've seen this. It's like even in white British culture, people are very, very individualistic.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some of your video when you're this critical towards these mosques in the UK, when you mentioned about this job and compared it with France. For me, as an outsider, I always enjoyed British kind of Islam or something, because they produce a lot of content on YouTube in English, which was for me the only language I could understand to embrace Islam. There's no Slovak Islam, doesn't exist. So I had to learn in English, and the best sort of dawah, I would say, is the UK organizations. They have some of the really good materials for this, because I don't read French or any other. But I went to London, and I've visited some places. However, I don't know any insights. Like I don't live there, so I can't really say anything about it. I just know it's a very different diaspora, let's say. Like in France, you have primarily Algerians, I think, and in the UK, it's mostly like people from subcontinent, like India, Pakistan. So there's always, and also there's different history of why they immigrated there and why these people immigrated. So it's always a mix. But I think the UK Islam is slightly like more open, yeah. Even to, I think last week there was an announcement. There's a new mosque being built on like the main square in London by this like Muslim billionaire, which I don't think would be possible like anywhere else. But I don't know. It's
Yeah, I
just,
mean, here you've got all the infrastructures, you've got the knowledge,
yeah.
it's there. You've got Muslims here who have like billions of pounds, who are billionaires. It's insane. But in the US, it's very, very similar. But so if you are on your own and you're doing your own thing and you don't care about having a community or else, yeah, it's life is easy here. But I think it's a problem when people like us who don't have a Muslim family, who don't have many like a huge Muslim network, are trying to find like support or just like find like a group of people, a social circle. Then I think this is where the things become a bit more difficult, in at least in the UK. I don't know in the US.
Yeah. Well, for me, I've decided I'm staying here, and alhamdulillah, like it's been 4 months since we opened our masjids that I've kind of opened here. And it's great because we had like 8 Slovak guys there, which is like the only masjid that exists that is run by Slovaks. Like most mosques are run by like other people. And this is the only one that is like this. And also we do some small dawah. We had 2 shahadas over the weekend, so that's perfect. And it's like,
Wow.
even told us like we wouldn't be going to the Egyptian guys. Like we are not comfortable with this. And this can be from racism or maybe from just proximity to culture. Like you want to talk to someone who has the same experience, not someone who came there selling kebab. Like they have a completely different life. Like you need someone else to explain like, hey, you can be a Muslim and live here and what to do and stuff like that. And this is the most Islamophobic country on earth. We don't even have Islam recognized as a religion, so it's much worse than Poland here. But
Mm-hmm.
we have such a good connection, the guys we are. Like I wouldn't want to leave, even though the outside is sort of haram. Like there's no like environment Islamic, but we are creating it, and almost every day we're meeting. So I can't imagine living like in some other country where it's more developed in this sense, but I would probably feel like I'm kind of standing out, like I don't know where I belong here. Because this feeling like we're building the Slovak Islamic identity is real, and we're cooking like our meals halal, we're doing this stuff. The marriages we're trying to figure out, so there's a lot to do. You feel like in Mecca, like early days of Islam, where there's a sense of brotherhood, but it's difficult. But if I go to Turkey, it's so easy, like just chilling. But there's no sense of community there. Like for me, I don't belong, you know. So it's like juggling these things, I guess. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's wonderful to have this, because even with time now I realize my some of my like younger self mistakes was to uh, it's not really my fault to hang out with people who are born Muslims, because in France it was a wonderful experience, but I think in the UK I relied too much on this idea of community with others that wasn't existing. So this is where I just like kept looking for it and just keep banging my head on walls without finding anyone. And then I realized that maybe this is the best community is the one you build, and this is why I want to start like a small circle of people in my local area where you don't have many people who have embraced Islam, for the same reason as you, because I'm sure there are people there who are maybe not comfortable with how they're received at the mosque, and they need a space and they need people to share who share perhaps similar experiences, and people are not going to build these things for us, so someone needs to take the lead, this to say, and I think this is the best way.
Yeah, I think it's the best way. Like, Alhamdulillah, the YouTube helped me because they've sent us like 7,000 euros. So we just rented a room and signed a contract, and now I'm officially registering it as like a non-NGO. And basically, it's like really cool. We have one place for it's like a masjid. Next to it is like carpets and sitting and library. And we just sleep there until Fajr sometimes, or like it's like
Wow.
such a cool environment. Like we talk for like 3-4 hours, about anything. And sometimes, yeah, you don't have the same madhab. Like some people will have different ways. We have a Maliki guy who prays, differently and this, but we don't really care about that because we don't have, if it's not too crazy, we don't have time to deal with this. We are facing other issues.
Yes,
But
yes.
if it's like, let's say Ahlus Sunnah, but everybody says this, but like if it's, let's say, mainstream Islam, I think we don't even discuss these kind of points. It's more about this community and meals and just having someone to share this with. And now people are moving in from other, because there's always like a Muslim in some village here random, and they are just alone. And if they go to the capital city, it's like they'll still be alone. They will just have this mosque on Friday Juma, let's say, but it's closed for most of the other things. So let's we do this, and it's nice, but yeah, nobody's giving you anything. You have to build it on your own, like so, and that's how it is. But it's really cool. So if I would say if there's a baraka in it, then it's great. But it can be very difficult. So I was wondering, you went to Poland as well to these Tatar villages to shoot a documentary, right? And it's like amazing to me that there are these villages who are kind of like Muslim, let's say, like hundreds of years ago, and they're still there, and there's a mosque and stuff. And it's like the closest thing for me, because we don't have any here. There were some Ottomans here, but they never left anything. So the closest mosques we have are like now in Vienna, but come on, that's like recent mosques. But like historic mosque, it would be this. And I know Jan Sobielski, the guy who like beat the Ottomans, he actually let the Tatar build those mosques as a sort of gift for them to defend Polish from Ottomans. But what's your experience to be there? Like, have you like felt like you're reconnecting to something? Like, because it's strange you converting to Islam and then going to Poland, where you can find some indigenous Tatar people. So how was this experience looking at this documentary?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a coincidence, because I was going back to Poland every year almost to visit my uncles and my grandparents until my grandmom passed away shortly before I undertook the documentary. And I was just, going on Google and thinking, once I embraced Islam, okay, so now I need to figure out where I'm going to pray, how I'm going to eat over there, because these are all questions, going to Poland was so natural for me. But once I was Muslim, I just realized that, I have all this set of problems I need to solve now. And then when I found out on Wikipedia that there's actual like Muslims in Poland settled since the 14th century, I thought to myself, and why I didn't know that before. I need to show that to the world. I need to do something about this, because this is, the perfect argument. Many people in Europe say that Islam doesn't belong to Europe or anything, but you've got people settled in Europe, in Poland, since the 14th century at least, and so that's just amazing. So yeah, so apart from the newly arrived Muslims in Poland, because you also have lots of people from the Middle East who came in the 20th century when it was coming from socialist countries, and you've got also recently the Chechen and people from Dagestan. But yeah, going to the villages, it was really fascinating, because if you especially going into the mosque, because these are completely built of wood. Sadly, they burned several times during history. um, but the way they are built, and the smell, it smells like it's very homely. It's not very impersonal like all these modern builds. You can really feel the weight of the history. The carpets they have also shields coming from the Tatars. I don't know if that's is replicas, but they have swords and shields, and they have turned some of them into chandeliers, and that part was fast, because it looks like a church. If you look from the outside, it's a church. It could be a Catholic or Orthodox church. It's very, very similar the way it's built. um, you wouldn't tell it's a mosque until you go inside and you realize, oh, there's no chairs. uh, but the thing is, because of the communism and so on, many Tatars have left. No, they haven't left Islam, but the practice of Islam has been transformed in a way that it would be very hard for someone who is rigorously practicing to understand what's happening there. They would go to the mosque only, I think, 14 times a year, so 12 times once a month for Juma, and two extra times for Eid. Um, and they have also for Eid this tradition of Sadoga, where people they leave sweets on the mimbar. Uh, and you see that also people's names, they have changed their names in adopting Christian names for in the time of communism, for people not to be suspicious or anything. So if you see someone called Alexander, they would tell you that their real name is Ali, for example, and there's many other examples. So it was interesting to see how through the different governments and politics that have ruled over Poland, how people have adopted, like I would say, not, I wouldn't say like exactly distorted, but changed their faith and the way they practice and they relate to their religion. Um, because it's I think for many it has become like for the mainstream society, Islam has become a cultural heritage. It's something which comes from our ancestors, and we still do it, even if, but it's not I would say a framework for life. It's just part of the culture. It's only now that I've seen people who are going back into reading the books, the Quran, and trying to understand the why and the how of Islam, the principles behind all the rituals, and take Islam as a proper guidance for life.
And so, in terms of you've been a Muslim for such a long time, when did you finally felt like you have kind of completed your Islamic identity that you, because in the early days it's kind of shaky. So when did you arrive to that moment like I'm a Muslim and it's not like something strange? And was it like 3 years, 5 years, or 1 month? I don't know. Everyone, because some people just
You
can't
know,
handle the pressure of like outside world. So uh, sometimes they leave Islam, or many things can happen because it's like a very lonely journey for people who are from these backgrounds. So when did you hit that point like I'm 100% sure you know that this is my identity now?
well, I'm still learning so many things, and I think our identities are constantly building. There's it comes by waves. There's ups and there's downs. I felt very comfortable from the beginning. because I was, I had a very strong support network in France, so it felt almost natural. It just I had, yeah, maybe different friends, different things, but because everything was normal with the people I was hanging out with, didn't feel any different. It was difficult at home, obviously, because of my parents, but then with time it got better. And then, again, like a big slap in the face in the UK, where I thought, like it's well, I had these ideas coming from France that weren't just true. It's and I was truly left on my own, and I had to. Question myself a lot about the about my identity. This is one big time of questioning. But then, because I was married before, and when I was married again, then again, I felt like falling back on my feet, and finding that, yeah, okay, now this is the I have, and when I tried to also decided to distance myself from all these what we call like Muslimic, so people who say they're Muslim, but when the way they lead their life is nothing really Islamic. Um, and try to carefully select my friends and choose who I hang out with, what kind of relationships I want to nurture within my circle of friends. Then I think it felt like, yeah, I'm getting solid. I kind of know where I'm going now.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So I was wondering if you can maybe tell us more about your academic background and the type of like YouTube videos you do, because I think you're also a video like producer, but you are like full-time at like a university, I don't know, scholar, should I say? So maybe you can tell us more about kind of like your work and what you're doing in your job.
Yeah. So I do three jobs at the same time. So to so the I don't know with which to do, with which to start. Yeah. So since 2006, I've been doing freelance photography and videography. So it's mainly client based for companies, events, and stuff. So um, it's most of the time it's boring. I don't have much creative freedom, but when I do, I like to do documentaries and stuff. And then the job I studied for is, so I'm a researcher at the University of Warwick in the UK in sociology. So this is something I really wanted to do for the longest I know, because I like to teach students. I like to do research, to meet people, to read books, and just try to just like a normal doctor, or try to fix the problems we encounter in society and find the answers. Why do we have so many problems, and what could be the solutions? Are there people who have found the solution? And if yes, so I need to showcase and analyze what they're doing and why it's working. So it's quite simple. And but I realized that now people don't have the time to read books and articles. That's especially when it's academic language sometimes can be very difficult. And I don't want to write books that will take some like dust in some forgotten shelf in a library somewhere. So I decided I need to translate everything I find into something which is more digestible for people. And this is how I started to use my YouTube channel as I would say a platform for me to share what I have learned, all the things, the questions I have. So I try to be also a bit more personal, because I know like it's also important that my own journey. I've done lots of mistakes in my life, and I think people can learn from it. So I try to. Be a little bit, not as complicated as in the academic language, and try to be a bit more simplify things and to be a bit more relatable, because I don't do it for money. So again, this is a luxury. I know that to not be like a full-time content creator, because then the content, you have to tweak it in a way for you to get the following, or so I think this is a good balance, what I found. So yeah, that's I would say my intention. I don't know where it's gonna take me. If I don't know if it's like it's helping anyone out there, I just hope so. But yeah, this is my intention.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, William, for giving us an overview of your journey. And I would like to definitely stay in touch. And if I'm in the UK, I'll let you know if you're free.
Oh no, definitely. You're welcome to come at ours. You know, it's like we have an open door policy at our house, so you're more than welcome. And I think, you know, I would like very much to visit as well.
Sure.
The mosque you have opened, and because
It's
I
like
think this is
it's
uh,
like the Tatars you filmed, but just new. You know, like completely opposite. There's no history, but we just have carpets everywhere.
yeah, because I've never heard about a similar initiative in Europe. There's, I think, maybe in Spain, there's one center in Spain, in Andalusia, but
Yeah,
yeah, like
I
in
know
Eastern
about
Europe,
this.
no, I was, yeah.
But those guys are like funded by Erdogan and Turkish government and Saudis. Like it's
Okay.
it's run by Revers, but they are on a completely different level. You know, we are so underground that you can't even basically compare the two. But yeah, they have a beautiful mosque. It's part of the like city, but something we would dream about maybe in 100 years. I would say it like this.
Inshallah, who knows?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, feel free if you're ever in Slovakia, somewhere in Austria or here, it's very close. Just let me know.
Yeah, now with EasyJet, Ryanair, like tickets are very, very cheap. I know. I think last year I went to Poland, way and back from the UK for £25. That's
Hmm.
that's
Yeah,
nothing. So yeah,
there's
yeah.
flights to Bratislava all the time. All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much, and then let's keep in touch. Jazakallah khair, William, and all the best with you with your work.
Inshallah. I mean, thank you to you as well.